In a world where magical power determines everything, Will lacks even a hint of magical talent. Everyone believes he will soon give up. But instead of falling, Will chooses to wield a sword, relying on the strength of his own hands to move forward. In an academy full of magical prodigies, he is the anomaly. While others summon firestorms, he uses his sword to slay monsters. When others look down on him, he responds with unwavering determination. And from here, Will's journey to become a mage in his own unique way officially begins. Worthless, incompetent, these are the words that the protagonist, Will Surford, hears every day. He was born in a world where magic is everything, and even studies at the prestigious Lee Garden Magic Academy. Yet Will cannot use magic at all. Despite this, he remains determined never to give up. Whenever he has free time, Will ventures into the dungeons to fight monsters, accumulating points to avoid being expelled from the academy. But no matter how hard he tries, he is still constantly looked down upon. During a magic class, Professor Edward deliberately calls Will up to practice. Despite knowing full well that Will cannot use magic, the result is predictable. Will fails completely and is ridiculed by the entire class. Not stopping there, Edward mockingly remarks that in this world, magic is the absolute existence. Magic is power, magic is strength, and heroes are always mages. In this prestigious magic academy, only magical talent is respected. Those who have knowledge but cannot use magic, like Will, would be better off leaving the school as soon as possible. After class, Will is once again mocked by Sion's group. Knowing Will is preparing to enter the dungeon, Sion asks if he isn't ashamed of earning points from such garbage monsters. At that moment, Colette suddenly appears, stating that Will is much kinder than them. He works harder than anyone, so they shouldn't insult her good friend. But Sion bursts into laughter and says, "You can't become a great mage through kindness and effort." And of course, wanting to become a magic vendor will forever remain just a dream. Before leaving, he advises Will to listen to Professor Edward and quickly get out of this academy. Colette feels very confused about why Professor Edward would make Will a laughingstock like that. Will, already accustomed to such treatment, assures her it's fine. The fact that he cannot use magic is the truth. Moreover, having a cute girl like Colette care about him makes him feel as lucky as winning the lottery. Colette is incredibly flustered hearing this. She can't believe that the usually calm Will would occasionally flirt so intensely. She asks what his intentions are, warning that even if he flatters her, he won't get ice cream at the gate. Will explains that since childhood, he was taught to compliment girls, and since Colette is indeed very cute, he was only telling the truth without any bad intentions. Hearing this, Colette blushes with embarrassment and tells Will to say no more. If he continues, she might not be able to handle it. Will suddenly falls silent, looking at the tower in front of them, then remarks that today is another beautiful day. Colette agrees. Today, the great mages of the magic vendor continue to support the sky. Long ago, when humans were still trapped in darkness, unaware of the sky, the world was threatened by invaders from the heavens. 5 mages stood up against them. After defeating the invaders, the mages sealed them in the sky. The magic vendor became known as the 5 Great Scepters. This reputation has been passed down to this day and is everyone's dream. Colette wonders if the scepter of the Ice Princess, Andisvina, is watching them today. Will is certain she is. From the window of the highest floor, she is looking this way. Before becoming a magic vendor, Elfie was Will's childhood friend. Elfie once told Will that there is actually a moon and sun in the sky. Not only that, but there is also something beautiful called a sunset. And if they could reach the highest floor of the tower, the closest point to the sky, they could see the sunset. At that time, they promised to become magic vendors together to see the sunset. Though it was simply a childhood promise, Elfie actually achieved it. With her innate talent, she became the youngest magic vendor. As for Will, not only ordinary but also useless and incompetent, he still clings to that old promise. Until now, Will still blindly dreams of standing beside Elfie. Not long after, Will is thoroughly scolded by Professor Wainer for entering the dungeon without permission and even reaching the 7th floor, a very dangerous place where one could lose their life at any moment. Despite his reprimands, the kind-hearted Wainer confirms that Will successfully eliminated an evil gate and will receive 2 accumulation points, making Will and the familiar spirit Kiki very happy. Knowing Will still hasn't given up on his dream of becoming a magic vendor, Wainer explains that to reach the higher floors of the tower, he must achieve a higher level of proficiency. To do this requires earning a massive number of points from 3 sources: theory, practice, and combat. Someone who cannot use magic like Will cannot earn enough points from practical exercises. That's why he participates in combat, entering dungeons to earn more points. But to advance to a higher level, combat alone is not enough, especially for someone who cannot use magic like him. Will certainly knows this. Nevertheless, he still refuses to give up. But before achieving his dream of becoming a magic vendor, Wainer reminds Will that he needs to focus on graduating first. He has lost many points in the practical exam, so he needs to earn at least 4 points this week, meaning in just 2 more days. Hearing this, Will frantically searches through books to find any monster worth 4 points. Seeing the young boy trying so hard, Wayner casually mentions that a Baskerview has appeared on the 6th floor and no one has been able to defeat it yet. Hearing this, Will joyfully rushes to hug Professor Wayner while thanking him profusely. But they don't know that the unpleasant Sion outside has heard everything. He plans to defeat the Baskerview himself so that Will be expelled for not having enough accumulation points. Not long after, Will and Kiki arrive on the 6th floor of the dungeon. Will has fought a Baskerview once before, so he feels very excited. Kiki, however, doesn't seem very happy because last time it got burned by the Baskerview's fire breath. Will begs Kiki to help him. Since he cannot use search magic, he can only rely on Kiki's sense of smell. Meanwhile, Sion's group has also arrived on the 6th floor. He is determined to defeat the Baskerview before Will to get him expelled. Sion believes that someone who cannot use magic like Will has no right to mention the magic vendor, much less the right to exist in the academy. After walking a bit further, Gordon is suddenly punched into a wall by a monster and immediately logs out. Linley beside him suffers the same fate. Hearing the screams, Will rushes over, thinking someone has come down to this floor and is being attacked. When he arrives, he is incredibly shocked to see an evil sentinel, one of the 5 monsters that wreaked havoc during the Great War. It should be on a deeper floor, but for some reason has appeared on this 6th floor. What shocks him even more is that Sion is also here. Sion's magic has no effect on the sentinel due to the huge level difference. At this rate, he will be killed by it. Will considers helping Sion, but he cannot find any reason to step in. Sion always teases, looks down on, and bullies Will because he cannot use magic. At this moment, a memory suddenly floods back. Back then, Elfie had once said that Will was very kind and braver than anyone. But Will thought of himself as shameful. He did everything only because he wanted to become someone worthy of Elfie and stay by her side. So at least now, Will wants to be as strong as a sword. Meanwhile, after learning that Sion's group has entered the dungeon without permission, Edward rushes to Wayner, asking him to send familiar spirits to search for them. But when he learns they've gone down to the 6th floor, Wayner tells Edward not to worry because Will is already there. Back to the battle, after blocking all the attacks from the evil sentinel, Will uses his extreme speed to successfully cut off one of its fingers, causing it pain. The evil sentinel immediately counterattacks with a series of slashes, but cannot touch him. Will once again uses his extreme speed to circle behind the evil sentinel and stabs its shoulder forcefully, causing blood to splatter. Seeing this, Sion is extremely shocked. He wonders if this is really the useless Will that he usually bullies. Edward also can't believe his eyes and turns to ask Wayner what's going on. Wayner explains that Will is an extraordinary person. He has a mysterious power like a mage, strength from his sword like the dwarf race, and keen judgment to predict enemy actions after seeing them just once. It's true that Will cannot use any magic, but in this magical world, he is the only warrior. His slashes are more terrifying than thunder and lightning. After cutting off the evil sentinel's head, kind-hearted Will comes over to ask if Sion is hurt, but Sion shows great hatred toward him. Professor Edward on the other side also cannot accept this situation. How could someone who cannot use magic like Will surpass a mage? The next morning, when Will comes to submit evidence of defeating the evil sentinel, he is welcomed by Wayner with a very favorable expression. Wayner gives Will 10 accumulation points, making him tremble with joy. Now he doesn't have to worry about being expelled anymore. And so begins the story of a boy who changes the magical world with a sword. 5 years ago, when Will first entered the academy, everyone looked down on him, believing he was just bait to bring Elfaria to the academy. Now that she had become a magic vendor, Will would soon be expelled. But headmistress Karen was different. She called Will and Wayner to her office. Karen then gave Will a sword and suddenly attacked him with magic. Will reacted very quickly, immediately pushing Wayner away, then cutting through all the magic. Astonished by Will's abilities, Karen decided to continue recognizing Will as a student of the academy, even though he couldn't use magic. Will wondered if, by studying at the academy, he could climb to the upper floors of the tower and be by Elfie's side. The headmistress said that if he made relentless efforts and maintained an iron will, he could do it. A sword wanting to become a scepter, she was very much looking forward to seeing what would happen next. Back to the present. Today Will has a tutoring session with Professor Wayner. To become a magic vendor, one who presides over the top of the Mexis Colis Tower must train to the highest level and be recognized as a member of the upper house. There are 2 ways to advance to the upper house. First is to create a new type of magic. Second is to earn 17,200 accumulation points within the academy. But for the kids sitting here, don't talk about advancing to the upper house. It's uncertain if they can even graduate, so Wayner has assigned them many supplementary exercises. Though Professor Wayner is strict, he is very kind. Other teachers don't care about Will as much, especially Professor Edward, who would certainly not give him a second chance. Walking a bit further, Will and Collet see Lily babbling about how Sion single-handedly defeated the evil sentinel. Everyone listening is extremely surprised. They think he might be able to replace one of the top 3. But Xian knows very well that it wasn't him who defeated the evil sentinel, it was Will. At that moment, Xian suddenly sees Will passing by and immediately runs over to cause trouble. Fortunately, Colette intervenes in time, and Xian reluctantly leaves. She asks Will if something happened between them. Will admits something did occur, but doesn't elaborate. Meanwhile, Edward has gone to Headmistress Karen's office, demanding Will's expulsion. He's still bitter about how someone who cannot use magic could overcome magic. Headmistress Karen looks at Will's academic record and sees that his written exam scores are very good. His perspectives on magic and his reports are also interesting. If one disregards his inability to use magic, he is one of the most outstanding students. The headmistress also reminds Edward that besides magic vendors, many people become magic engineers or healers. Moreover, the Academy's mission is to train talented intellectuals for the future. But the problem is that the person they're discussing doesn't want to be an intellectual, but wants to be a magic vendor, which is also a very concerning issue. So she decides to assign the task of testing Will to Edward. The person who discovered Will's true nature, like him, is most suitable. If Will cannot pass the test, his fate will be at Edward's discretion. Edward will have full authority to decide the nature of the test. The Shadow Snake Mage, the one closest to becoming a magic vendor like Edward, can certainly test and evaluate Will himself. Because he cannot use magic, Will always has to ask Colette to help open and close his personal locker. Will is also not allowed to carry his sword in the academy, and when he returns to the dormitory, Rosti doesn't allow him to go out, so he has to keep it in his locker and take it out when needed. Will and Colette then go to the library to study on their own. Although Will's written exam performance is already much better than others, he still works very hard, because if he loses even 1 point, his chance to advance to the upper house would be gone. According to magical history, in the year 344, the Gazaran battle broke out. Those who came from other worlds, like the dwarf race, were used as labor slaves, but noticing that the elf race was treated differently, despite also being a race from another world, the dwarves decided to rise in conflict. Will deeply understands the feelings of the dwarf race. They always advance resolutely, despite having to confront powerful mages, never giving up. That's the only way they can defeat magic. Noticing white hair on Will's head, Colette's eyes light up as she's about to pluck it for him. But at that moment, Professor Edward suddenly appears and tells Will to follow him to the practice area alone. There, Edward says he'll give Will an opportunity to fix his consistent failures in practical exams. The test this time is to land 1 hit on him. If successful, Edward will give Will 5 points, but if not, he will be expelled from the academy. In Edward's eyes, a useless person who cannot use magic is not allowed to dream of becoming a magic vendor. Meanwhile, Wayner has been called to Headmistress Karen's office. As soon as he enters, she uses magic to show him the progress of Will's test. Just as the headmistress agreed with Wayner's recognition of Will while observing him, she thinks she should also respect Edward's judgment of Will, to see if he deserves to continue dreaming of becoming a magic vendor. Wayner cannot understand why, among so many teachers, she chose Edward. Edward is the person closest to becoming a magic vendor. Although he ultimately failed, he had once climbed to the top of the tower. This is too cruel. Back to the battle, Will never expected that the low-level dark magic in Edward's hands could be so powerful. Will's physical attacks cannot break through his defensive shield. Moreover, all the magic spells require no incantation. The casting time is too fast, and there are no gaps in both attack and defense, making it impossible for Will to land even a single hit on him. Edward says he's only using 2 spells. One is fire magic for burning, and the other is shield magic to block Will's dirty attacks. Just as he finishes speaking, Edward activates a series of decks and beacons magic, shocking Will. He immediately runs away but cannot escape this continuous attack. Given the current situation, Will knows he cannot win. If he had his sword, he would have a chance to land a hit. On the other side, Colette is worrying about whether Will is okay. She even imagines Will being brutally tortured by Professor Edward. At that moment, Kiki, with its body covered in injuries, crawls to Will's locker containing his sword. Realizing something has happened to him, Colette immediately uses magic to open the locker and retrieve the sword. Back to Edward, instead of delivering the finishing blow, he begins to lecture. He says that for mages, Magic Vendor is the final destination. If Will cannot overcome him, he shouldn't hope to achieve that title. Like in the Gazaran battle, the foolish dwarves created an army of 10,000 to rebel. But just one mage was able to annihilate that army of warriors. Swords cannot defeat scepters. This is the law of this world. Nevertheless, Will still refuses to give up on his dream of becoming a magic vendor. He wants to be beside the person he cherishes, to keep his promise to Elfie. Perhaps to Edward, this is a silly reason, but even if it's a path full of thorns, Will still go to watch the sunset with Elfie. At that moment, Colette brings the sword to Will. With the sword in hand, he becomes much more confident, while Edward grows angrier. He once again attacks with Dex and Beacon's magic, but Will easily cuts through it. Seeing Edward unleash that terrible magic again, Will feels very afraid, his hands and feet trembling. He will be burned again, attacked again by thousands of fireballs. This is the wall blocking his path to becoming a magic vendor. Will wants to run away, but this is his only opportunity for a breakthrough. The Gazarin battle has a continuation. The leader of the dwarf faction, Garitz, lost all his comrades. Nevertheless, he still strived to deliver one final blow. That mage acknowledged him for the courage of a warrior. At that time, the sword had reached the scepter. Will is the same, never giving up. Taking advantage of Edward's vision being blocked by smoke and dust, he jumps high, then uses all his strength to break the shield, and swings his sword, ending the arduous test with a wound on Edward's face. Although reluctant, Edward still gives Will 5 points as promised. Seeing this, Headmistress Karen can't help but praise Will, daring to jump into the fireballs just to conceal himself, hiding in the opponent's blind spot. The final blow was so powerful it broke through the shield. His slash was able to overcome magic. Truly a tough, unyielding child. On that day, before Elfie entered the Mexis Cully's tower as a magic vendor, she gave Will a new pair of glasses as a farewell gift. Will promised Elfie that he would definitely come to the tower. Even if he couldn't use magic, even if many things separated them, he would come to meet her and watch the sunset together. Elfie said she would wait for him forever. After Elfie left, Will told Professor Wayner that this would be the last time he would cry so shamefully. Back to the present, Will is delivering newspapers in the slum area. The people there are very fond of Will, so whenever they see him, they greet him. Will tripped because he was running too fast, but thanks to his agility, he's fine. At that moment, the fallen newspaper caught his attention. It stated that Anbis Vina Elferia had invented a new magic again. This is the first time an individual has invented 12 types of magic. Additionally, a mission has been issued to all students, and the one making the request is Elferia herself. Learning this news, Will immediately runs back to the dormitory to ask Rosti to prepare magical items for him. Will also tells him about how Elfie had issued a mission to extract magic cores from frost walkers. They need many for magic catalysts, so the reward is generous. The target is on the 4th floor, so Will really needs Rosti's magical items. Faced with such expectant eyes, how could Rosti refuse? He lends Will magical items that have been improved compared to before. Knowing his roommate hasn't had breakfast, Rosti stuffs a particularly delicious buttered milk bread into Will's mouth while wishing him good luck. The great ancestor, the Mage King Mexis, once said, "All things in the world are born from the dungeon. O children of magic, explore the mysteries of the dungeon with knowledge and wisdom, turning the unknown into knowledge. All things in the world are connected to each other." The 4th floor of the dungeon is quite bustling now due to Elferia's mission. The red-haired Sion is also here. Until now, he still hasn't forgotten what happened that day. The killing intent and magical power emanating from Sion are so intense they can be seen with the naked eye. Feeling that at this rate, the Frost Walkers will all be hunted, Will decides to go deeper to find them. Walking a bit further, Will discovers a classmate surrounded by 3 giant penguins. He immediately charges forward, giving each one a fatal blow, killing them instantly without giving them a chance to retaliate. Seeing Will use a sword instead of magic, she is extremely surprised. It turns out this girl's name is Iris, a 4th-year student at Lee Garden Academy, and also Will's junior. Meanwhile, in the academy, Professor Wayner is teaching about magic. In this world, creating new magic has great significance. It is an outstanding achievement, very worthy of praise. The person who achieves it will advance straight to the tower unconditionally. New magic is usually named after its creator or words related to them. Like in the case of the dark magic Dex Ambicans, it takes its name from an ancient mage who was called the Fire Maniac Ambicans. If any of them can create magic, they can leave their mark in history. It sounds simple, but advancing by this method is almost impossible. The fact that Elferia, mentioned in this morning's newspaper, is truly remarkable, even astonishing. No other individual has created up to 12 types of magic like her. In that regard, considering throughout history, Elferia could be said to be the greatest mage. Collet feels that Will's childhood friend whom he pursues is truly amazing. The mission just issued has caused a commotion throughout the academy. Rose feels that Collet is jealous of Elferia, as if Will might be stolen by that wonderful childhood friend. Collet frantically shouts that it's not like that, earning a reminder from Professor Wayner. Back to the dungeon, after a conversation, Iris learns that Will is the sword that people often talk about. The person considered to be the most useless since ancient times, unable to use magic. Will hesitantly asks Iris if she looks down on a useless person like him. She replies, "Why would I humiliate someone who saved my life? Even if you can't use magic, you still know how to use your head. I truly admire someone like that." Hearing her answer, Will feels extremely embarrassed. He changes the subject and asks if Iris is also here for the mission. Iris enthusiastically says she also wants to help the magic vendor, to become one of those supporting the sky. What Iris said isn't an exaggeration. What's currently covering the world is a large barrier, a false sky created by the tremendous power of the magic vendors. According to legend, when the barrier disappears, the world will once again be plunged into darkness, and disaster will begin. The students carrying out the mission are not just doing so out of admiration for the magic vendors, but also because they believe doing so will help support the sky. Iris says she has met Elfaria before. It was when she was alone in the dungeon, and in a difficult situation, surrounded by many monsters. Just when Iris thought she was surely dead, Elfaria suddenly appeared like an angel and saved her life. Elfaria was also kind enough to remind her to be careful next time. Since that day, Iris has become a devoted fan and swore she would dedicate her life to Elfaria. And so, she summoned all her courage to come here alone, but couldn't find any Frostwalkers. Iris thinks perhaps everyone has already eliminated them all. While she is chattering away, Will has discovered traces of Frostwalkers. Based on his experience, Frostwalkers always leave ice fragments of about 0.5 to 1 mm when they move. But the fragments here are much larger, meaning there's a giant one ahead. It might be in a place where her tracking magic couldn't detect. Iris wonders how Will, who can't use magic, knows these things. Will thinks that although magic is very powerful, it is not absolute, especially in the dungeon, and despite his limitations, he still has enough knowledge and experience. At that moment, a giant Frostwalker suddenly jumps down from the ceiling. Having detected it earlier, Will quickly carries Iris and jumps away to avoid being crushed. Frostrake is a high-level species of Frostwalker, a powerful monster worth 6 accumulation points on the 4th floor. After dodging the attack, Will tells Iris to stay where she is while he goes to eliminate it. But Iris stops Will because physical attacks have no effect on Frostrake. It can freeze those who approach it and is known as the Dwarf Slayer. The only way to defeat it is to use long-range magic. For someone who cannot use magic like him, it is certainly impossible. But Iris doesn't know that Will has defeated it many times before. The battle begins right after that. With his agility, Will easily dodges the Frostrake's attacks. Not seeing its opponent anywhere, it starts attacking randomly. Taking advantage of the Frostrake's vision being obscured by dust, Will immediately throws a hook attached with Rosty's magical item and moves around, causing the wire to tightly restrain its movements. Unable to move, the angry Frostrake releases icy breath in attack, but by then, it's too late. Will then activates the device in his hand, flames quickly traveling along the wire to Rosty's magical item, creating an earth-shattering explosion. Because Frostrake's weakness is fire and explosions, it is instantly eliminated. Seeing this, Iris is extremely shocked, but in the next second, her eyes suddenly change, because the useless person she had heard about and what she witnessed are vastly different. Iris wonders how she should report this now. After obtaining the magic core from the Frostrake, Will returns to the academy to hand it over, while Iris returns to the Mexis Coli's magic tower. According to her observations, although Will cannot use magic, he has superior skills and a special sharpness honed from battlefield experience. That doesn't make him a mage, but a talented warrior. It turns out that Iris came here to meet the magic vendors. They had just gone through a boring meeting as usual. According to the magic vendors, if the barrier is destroyed, this world will collapse. On the other side of the sky, there are still invaders who are always watching, but they still don't have enough strength and manpower to fight against them. They need outstanding people to prepare for that day. They cannot let the prophecy become reality. It turns out Iris's real name is Watcher. She was sent to the academy to look for talented people. Watcher reports that during her observation of the academy, she found someone quite interesting, Will Surford, a useless person who cannot use magic. Watcher recommends him to join the tower. Elaine doesn't accept this request. She doesn't want to endure having more inferior people around. Rainbow finds it quite interesting. As far as he's concerned, as long as they're useful, even dwarves are fine. Seeing the two about to fight, Whiteman speaks up to stop them. He says the magic tournament will soon begin. They can wait for the results before making a decision. If he's truly useful, he'll climb up here himself. If not, then that's that. After speaking, the three of them leave one by one. At this point, Watcher stands up and tells Elfaria that the young man she told her about is truly interesting. Elfaria also takes out the magic core of the Frostrake that Will hunted earlier and says she will wait for him forever. 7,200, that is the minimum number of points out of the total 12,000 points at Lee Garden Magic Academy required to enter the upper house. This is the prerequisite for those who aspire to the position of magic vendor. Today is the day of the magic examination. Talented individuals like Collet and Sion easily defeat goblins with just a few magic spells. Their total accumulated points are 7,340 and 9,889 respectively. Meanwhile, the protagonist, not being allowed to use his sword in school and unable to use magic, quickly fails miserably. In contrast to Will, Wignall and Liana are extremely powerful, considered the two students most likely to become magic vendors. Defeating goblins is as easy as eating candy for them. They complete the exam in the blink of an eye. Not only that, but the accumulated points of both exceed 10,000. As for Julius, who ranks third in the entire academy, he is no pushover either. He directly unleashes wide area ice magic, defeating all the goblins in an instant. This action causes many students to be dissatisfied, but no one dares to speak up. Because in this world, only those with real power have the right to speak. After completing the exam, Julius heads straight towards Wignall and Liana and officially declares war. He asserts that with the treasure he just acquired, this time he will certainly dethrone them. Julius forms an ice rose as a substitute for a challenge glove, but it is immediately shattered by Wignall and Liana's magic, after which they turn and leave. In this academy, scores are the measure of each student's ability. With a score of just 405, Will can hardly graduate, let alone step into the upper house. Moreover, this is already his final year. At this point, Julius, leading his two followers, comes over and tells Will not to block the way, as Will's existence makes Julius feel disgusted. He doesn't want someone as useless as Will appearing before him. Will doesn't want trouble, so he steps aside. But Julius has no idea that in the upcoming magic tournament, he will be dealt with severely by Will. Collet angrily tells Will that he must try to get recruited in the magic tournament, because with just theory and combat experience points, he won't be able to advance to the upper house. There have been cases where people didn't have 7,200 points, but were still recruited to the tower. At this time every year, everyone is fired up with enthusiasm, hoping for an opportunity to be discovered. The Magic Tournament is an event at Lee Garden Magic Academy held once every 2 years. Various competitions will be organized, with the purpose of allowing high-level mages to recruit people for the tower. It can be said that whether Will passes into the upper house or not is mostly decided here. This includes the Fairy Scepter, Irulith, the Thunder Scepter, Tora's Fashion, the Ice Scepter, Anbis Vina, and the Flame Emperor Scepter, Insja Baham. Although the Light King Scepter, Master Noah, will not participate, the 4 current magic vendors will all be present. Therefore, the possibility of being chosen by one of them to ascend the tower is entirely possible. Not only that, there are rumors that Watcher will also appear at the magic tournament. They will assess which talents are worthy of ascending the tower. But Will believes that Watcher is just one of the 7 legends of the academy. Someone who cannot use magic like him cannot possibly participate in the tournament. It's best to just stand backstage. Collet, on the other hand, thinks now is the time for Will to show himself so that everyone can see his abilities. Will is very grateful for Collet's kindness. If he were to participate, it would turn into a sports tournament. In his second year, Will participated once, resulting in everyone throwing stones at him for using a sword. What happened then traumatized him to the point that he didn't want to participate anymore. Because the magic tournament is approaching, the entire academy is very bustling. A group of students even secretly created an underground gambling den, betting on who will win this magic tournament. In the blink of an eye, it's already time for class to end. Collet wants to invite Will to go with her to the dungeon, but he says he has to work part-time tonight, which disappoints her greatly. The place where Will works part-time is a tavern owned by a dwarf named Jenna, located in the slum area of Lee Garden. Today, like any other day, the dwarves freely drink alcohol and laugh after a tiring day of work. Because an employee of the tavern suddenly took a day off, Jenna asked Will to find someone else to help. So he asked Rosti to come and assist him. Rosti wonders why. Since the dwarf guild pays very little, Will doesn't ask Professor Wayner to recommend a better job. Will says that he doesn't want to trouble Professor Wayner. Moreover, Will really likes dwarves. They are lively, enjoy drinking, are dexterous, and always warmly welcome him, so Will respects them a lot. At that moment, Julius and his 2 followers push open the door and enter. Seeing that the tavern is full of dwarves, he immediately shows his displeasure. His follower apologizes, saying that this is the only place still open now. At this point, Julius sees Will behind the kitchen and immediately bursts into laughter. A useless person who doesn't know how to use magic. Together with the Manji, it's indeed very fitting. Joras can't hold back and is about to take action, but is stopped by the dwarf next to him. Seeing this, Julius becomes even more aggressive. He says dwarves are just inferior beings from another world who have come here, living off humans, and should be ashamed. After speaking, he tells the owner to bring up alcohol and food. Long ago, when the dwarf territory was destroyed by invaders from the sky, they had to seek refuge in the human world. Unlike the elf race, dwarves have always been the subject of discrimination. If they dare to lay a finger on a mage, their standing will be immediately threatened. When Rosti brings the food, the followers laugh mockingly. What kind of monkey bean dish is this? In the countryside, we eat better than this. What's wrong with the tongues of these Manji? Julius even ridicules dwarves as being dirtier than animals and demands that they quickly get out of the human nation. Will can no longer hold back at this point. He walks over to Julius, demanding them to retract the insulting words just spoken. The beans of the dwarves are the intellectual achievement grown on this barren land. The sweat of the dwarves is evidence of their wholehearted dedication when working in harsh environments. Absolutely not something for them to mock. Hearing this, Julius not only disregards it, but also kicks the plate of food at will. The two followers stand up, intending to take action against him, but before they can do anything, they are pinned to the ground unconscious. Will states that their manginess and worthlessness exceed even that of the dwarves, even worse than animals. Hearing this, Julius becomes very angry. It's been a long time since someone dared to insult him like that. The entire tavern is then frozen by his magic. Magic attacks are continuously unleashed by Julius. Initially, Will is able to avoid them, but not long after, he is restrained by Julius's magic. Julius plants an ice rose in the middle of Will's chest. With just a thought, Will would freeze instantly, but when he sees that Will's eyes show no wavering or fear at all, Julius immediately changes his mind. He wants Will to participate in the magic tournament so he can humiliate him in front of the audience. Will, of course, agrees, because at this point, he is truly angry. They then make a bet with each other. If Will wins, Julius will have to apologize to Jenna and the dwarves. Conversely, Julius will make Will leave the academy immediately. Very quickly, the day of the magic tournament arrives. After quoting the words of advice from the ancestors, Headmistress Karen declares the opening of the magic tournament. The first event is the Sky Race, and everyone thinks the candidate for the championship in this event is Liana, who is acclaimed as the best in the academy. Not only do students compete, but recruiters also compete to recruit outstanding students. Not beyond expectations, Miss Perfect Liana wins the championship. Not only that, but she also breaks the Sky Race record. At this moment, Iris also asks permission from the headmistress to go do the work of Watcher, and moreover, there is a senior she wants to go cheer for. Sion, on the other side, is very excited. Not long ago, Colette had come to invite him to join her team, so he thinks Colette has had a change of heart, deciding to choose him instead of the useless Will. But man proposes, God disposes. When he arrives, Sion learns that Will is also a member of the team. The reason Colette invited him to join the team is to help Will meet the conditions to participate in the crow attack. The condition is that the total accumulated points of the members must exceed 21,000. Sion angrily asks Will why he has to force himself to participate in this high-level competition. Will not only doesn't answer, but his eyes are directed towards Julius, who is passing by. For Sion, being saved by the useless person who cannot use magic before was already a humiliation, and now being ignored makes him even angrier. Colette then mentions that there is some conflict between them. This is also the reason why Will must participate, at all costs, in the crow attack event that Julius is participating in. Very quickly, the afternoon session of the magic tournament begins. The commentary will be handled by Mike Myers. Also participating in the analysis is the most hated guest in the academy, extremely insidious and cruel. The person who has used his scepter to torture the spirits of so many generations of students, Professor Edward S. Fons. Who chose him? Sitting next to the shadow snake like this? How can I comment? Hearing this, Edward tells Myers that the next time he participates in his class, he should prepare a coffin in advance. Returning to the main topic, the next event of today is the crow attack. Myers then asks those in the fairy group to perform the great magic Magnetor's ringer to create terrains for the contestants to compete on. They coordinate with each other very rhythmically, each person starting to chant with extremely fast speed. Not long after, 5 competition areas have been formed, respectively: the volcanic region, the lake region, the desert region, the grassland region, and the jungle region. Unlike other competitions, this is a competition for a team of 3 people. Players will start from the outer edge and advance towards the central plaza, and whichever team gets the crown in the central area will win. Besides the natural elements blocking the team's paths, there are many traps set by the elite professors in the academy. The competing teams can choose the shortest path to the plaza. Hindering other teams is also acceptable. Therefore, this is the most brutal competition among all the competitions in the Magic Tournament. In other words, this is a battle royale. The excitement in this competition comes from the battle between outstanding students. Although Myers doesn't dare to speak loudly, in the underground betting society, Team 12 of contestant Wignall Lindor and Team 9 of contestant Julius Rainbow are very much anticipated by everyone. Myers reveals that he has bet his entire fortune on Wignall. Also noteworthy in a different sense, the team with the extremely low odds is Team 6, Will's team. All students believe that a useless person who cannot use magic like Will is sure to lose. After the participating teams take their positions, the crow attack competition officially begins. The first obstacle they must overcome is a forest full of golems. Although they are not very strong, there are too many of them. Seeing Will charge ahead alone, all students immediately mock him. Everyone believes that a useless person like him cannot defeat them. Even in the previous practical test, Will couldn't even inflict a scratch on a golem. But they couldn't have expected that when Colette and Will combined their powers, with just her basic glove creation spell combined with Will's extraordinary physique, they could defeat the golems with one punch. This tremendous power immediately shocks the entire audience. The people who had just mocked Will don't even dare to believe that what they see in the crystal ball is true, but Will's subsequent performance shocks them even more. Alone, he attacks from all directions, eliminating all the golems without needing the help of the other two members, becoming the first to pass through the golem forest. Sion would rather die than accept that he was saved by that useless person who cannot use magic. Therefore, he has made every effort to become stronger, even if just a little, yet is still surpassed by Will, causing the flame of hatred within him to burn even more fiercely. Nevertheless, Sion continues to advance with them deep into the desert, where the second challenge takes place. The trap for this checkpoint is earth element magic. As soon as Will approaches, countless earth arrows are fired towards him. Will immediately uses his fist to create an earth wall to block them, then asks Colette to use the sword tombstone magic, creating many swords. In this way, each magic prop is successively destroyed by Will's thrown swords with ease. To add drama, he even eliminates the last magic prop with his own hands. Will's performance once again shocks everyone. The students who looked down on Will earlier cannot accept this. Why can the school's lowest ranked student be so powerful? The only person cheering for him is Iris. Professor Edward now explains that those are the movements of someone who frequently enters the dungeon. With knowledge and experience, he has eliminated unnecessary movements. His ability to overcome traps is at the reflex level. Some contestants, upon receiving notification that the useless Will is in the lead, hurriedly speed up. As a result, they step on traps set by the elite professors in the academy. The current leading position still belongs to Will's team. It's very likely that he will be the first to reach the central plaza. Julius, on the other side, seems to be taking a stroll. Traps for him are no different from children's games, but when informed by his two teammates that Will is in the lead, Julius decides not to hesitate anymore, and uses his abilities to go ahead and intercept him. Not long after, Will finally reaches the fifth checkpoint, the Magic Forest. This area is set with countless magic traps, triggered in a chain reaction. To deal with it, Will cleverly digs up several underground traps to neutralize others. All the traps at the fifth checkpoint are instantly broken, causing commentator Myers to be full of admiration. He asks for Professor Edward's opinion, who set these insidious underground traps, but Edward is too bitter to answer and just clicks his tongue. According to the rules of the crow attack, the closer to the central plaza, the more likely one is to encounter enemies. Battles between teams will also break out in this forest. Therefore, Will decides to go ahead to gain the upper hand against Julius. Unexpectedly, after just a few steps, he falls into an opponent's trap. Seeing that the newcomer is Julius, Will is extremely surprised. He cannot believe that he and Colette have lost in a race of speed. Before he can understand what has happened, Julius continues to unleash a barrage of ice arrows attacking Will, forcing him to constantly dodge to avoid being hit. What Will doesn't expect is that Sion, who has been idle until now, suddenly takes action. The ice arrows around them immediately melt. Not stopping there, Sion continues to cast his fire element magic aimed in Julius's direction. But Colette discovers a problem. Will is also within the attack range. Clearly, Sion's intention is to eliminate Will as well. At such a close distance, Will certainly cannot avoid it. So Colette immediately casts earth magic to protect him. The destructive power of this spell is too strong. A section of the forest is immediately burned down, and even the distant central area shakes. Fortunately, Colette's defensive magic is also very strong, so Will isn't severely injured. But Julius is nowhere to be seen. At this point, Sion demands that Will fight a duel with him. When asked why, Sion says that for an eyesore, useless person like Will, a reason isn't necessary. Seeing this, Colette intends to rush forward to stop them. But unexpectedly, Julius suddenly appears and attacks her from behind. Will sees this and tries to run to her aid, but Sion stops him. He is determined to have a duel with Will today. Pushed to this point, Will has no choice but to fight back. It's worth noting that when Sion first enrolled in the academy, he saw Will as such a pathetic eyesore. So Sion wanted to make Will less of an eyesore by burning a paper with insults and then telling him to become his subordinate. But Will paid no attention and turned away. Even when Sion ran over and pulled Will's shoulder, telling him not to ignore him, Will used a soulless gaze to tell him to stay away. From that day on, Will became the person Sion hated most. Back to the battle, Sion is now continuously attacking with his fire element magic. Seeing Will only dodging and blocking without counterattacking, Sion angrily asks, "Can you only hop around and dodge like an animal trying to survive? Try attacking." But Will's answer is still no. They are currently teammates, and moreover, he has to keep his promise to Jenna and the other dwarves. These words make Sion even angrier. He threatens that if Will still doesn't fight back, he will be burned to ashes right here. Will and Sion breaking into internal conflict makes everyone in the audience very surprised. Commentator Myers immediately turns to ask Professor Edward what he thinks about this situation. He says that regardless of the reason, internal conflict is unacceptable. They will certainly lose significant points in the eyes of the tower's recruiters. Although Edward verbally says it's quite unfortunate, his face shows great pleasure. Just as Edward said, the recruiters show great disappointment in Sion. Although in terms of accumulated points, he ranks 4th in his grade, this behavior is unacceptable. Rosti and Kiki in the audience are also very worried about Will. At this moment, Iris suddenly appears and asks permission to sit with them. As soon as she sits down, she starts cheering for Will, which surprises Rosti. Iris says that someone had introduced Senior Will to her. Initially, she didn't pay much attention, but now she has truly noticed him. Hearing this, Rosti feels very happy. He even declares himself to be the person who likes Will the most. Meanwhile, on the other side, Collet is running while thinking of ways to quickly return and prevent Will and Sion from fighting. But Julius doesn't allow her to do that. He says that running away like this will tarnish the name of the Earth Princess. Hearing this, Collet angrily tells Julius not to call her by that name. Just as she finishes speaking, Julius attacks with ice element magic. Although Collet blocks it with an earth wall, his true purpose was to activate the explosion trap under her feet. Seeing this scene, everyone is shocked. But what's more shocking is that a Julius appears in each competition area, preventing other teams from advancing forward. But when encountering Team 12 of Wignall, it's different. He returns the flower that Julius had sent as a challenge earlier. The next second, a magic circle suddenly appears, blowing away Julius immediately. But that was just a clone created by Julius. The real person is advancing towards the plaza. Wignall has now realized this is the ultimate technique of a magic vendor. He didn't expect that Julius would hide such a powerful trump card. The fairy tribe deputy Freya asks Phyllis from above what she thinks about her fellow countrymen studying inside the academy. Phyllis coldly says that they're normal, not exceeding expectations but also not too poor. More importantly, Phyllis wants to leave right now. The festive atmosphere is too much for an introvert like her. But Freya says no, they must complete their work and then report to Lord Elner. Down in the audience, Gordon feels very confused. Although he knows that Sion really hates that useless guy, why would he do this during the magic tournament? Lily somewhat understands Sion's emotions. Perhaps trying to expel Will from the academy just because things aren't going well is a bit excessive. But he thinks Sion must have some special reason. Will also cannot understand why it has to come to this. Clearly, he hasn't done anything wrong, but is always being bullied. More than anyone, Will understands very clearly that he is useless. He doesn't need anyone's acknowledgement, nor does he say selfish words. Therefore, Will wants to be left in peace. He no longer has time to look elsewhere. He must quickly get to Elfie. Back to the present, Sion is still continuously attacking Will. Having witnessed Will's true strength, he decides to unleash his ultimate technique. After chanting, a Hodulus Gardenaz suddenly appears and rushes towards Will. Seeing this, Will immediately stabs his sword into the ground, then jumps up to dodge. He thought cutting off the wings of the Hodulus would give him a chance to approach Sion, but unexpectedly, it has a rapid regeneration ability. To prevent regeneration, one must destroy its magic core. Sion now commands Hodulus to attack. While he attacks from the front, Will immediately dodges Hodulus's technique, then raises his gloved hand to block Sion's attack. At this moment, he realizes that the main function of the Guardian is to serve as a shield, buying time for incantations, and it also has the effect of increasing attack directions. Seeing this scene, Professor Edward in the audience is extremely surprised. He didn't expect Sion to have progressed so much. His skills have now surpassed the level of a student. The fire element recruiters are also very surprised about this. Advanced fire magic, and a Guardian at that. They didn't expect that Sion could utilize magic with such high precision. Recognizing this as a rare talent, Hollyanad immediately orders his subordinate to report this to the Flame Emperor Scepter Chariot. Back to this side, Sion furiously shouts, "Is that all? Useless. When fighting the evil sentinel, you were much stronger than this." But even now, Will still doesn't understand why they have to fight. Clearly, they have no reason to fight at all. Hearing this, Sion trembles with anger. After so many times of mocking and tormenting, Will still doesn't harbor any hatred. Will certainly does have resentment and anger. Countless times he has thought in his head about retaliating against Sion, but now Will must defeat Julius, so he doesn't have time to fight with him. This answer makes Sion even angrier. He has always thought of Will as an eyesore. He feels uncomfortable that a useless person like Will never gives up. Why doesn't Will look at him but always looks towards something else? Hearing this, Will is deeply moved. He never expected Sion to think about him like that. Although Will doesn't need anyone's acknowledgement, deep down, he still wants to be acknowledged. So if Sion acknowledges him, Will must use his full strength to face him. Seeing Will finally willing to look at him, Sion feels very happy and also decides to use all his strength in response. Will knows that a half-hearted approach will be blocked by the Guardian, so he plans to concentrate all his strength to counterattack as soon as the magic is activated. Although he is very surprised when both wide area destruction magic and the Guardian are unleashed simultaneously, he has already seen the trajectory. Will forgoes defending against the destruction magic to directly attack the Guardian's core, then rushes straight to Xian. At the climax of determining victory or defeat, a wall suddenly rises, stopping both of them. The person doing this is none other than Colette. When asked, she reveals that she had beaten him up, but he disappeared somewhere. Xian suddenly shouts, asking Colette why she looks like that. How can an unmarried noble lady expose her skin like that? She retorts that this situation isn't her fault, but the result of them suddenly fighting each other. After speaking, Colette tells Will to go ahead. She will handle things here. Xian tries to speak up to stop him, but is immediately lectured by Colette and doesn't dare to utter another word. Will gently drapes a cloak over Colette, making her blush with embarrassment. Before leaving, he carefully tells Xian that if they want to fight, they'll do it another time. Xian bitterly shouts, "Don't joke around, stay and continue fighting." Meanwhile, on the other side, commentator Myers excitedly announces that after overcoming countless obstacles, the first person to appear at the Central Plaza is none other than contestant Julius's main team. Everyone thought the crown of glory was certainly already in their hands, but unexpectedly, Will suddenly flies out from the forest like a god, shocking everyone. Will clearly says to Julius, "Let's compete." Meanwhile, at the top of the Mercedes Coley's tower, Elfaria is closing her eyes, thinking about something. Actually, she's nodding off, so she gets a painful knock on the head from the ice deputy Sarissa. Sarissa then lectures her to be aware of her position as a magic vendor. Constantly not sleeping and looking down from the tower is no different from an untidy magic vendor in holy maiden attire. Sarissa has come here to deliver documents about promising talents sent by the recruiters. This year, there are several elites, among them one person that their ice faction should pay most attention to, Julius Rainbow. With the successes he has achieved at the current magic tournament, he might become her successor. Hearing this, Elfaria softly says that if what's written in these documents is true, he is very likely to become her successor. Back to the crow attack battle, Julius thinks that for a useless person like Will to reach here is quite impressive already. He was afraid everything would end just like that. If he wins without humiliating Will, he still won't be satisfied. Will tells Julius not to worry. As long as the three of them haven't apologized to Donald and the other dwarves, he won't give up. The next second, Julius releases a cloud of snow that obscures Will's vision, but he can still sense the magic power and footsteps. It seems like the three of them plan to surround him. At this moment, an ice arrow suddenly flies towards him, but Will reacts in time and blocks it. If he stood still, he would certainly be hit, so Will immediately moves around the field. Although his vision is limited from the attacks, he can determine their positions. After dodging the other two ice arrows, Will jumps high to identify Julius's position. But when he's about to deliver the finishing blow, a fourth attack suddenly comes. Julius bursts into laughter and asks Will what the hell he's doing. They haven't moved a step yet, and when the mist dissipates, many Juliuses suddenly appear, to the shock of Will and everyone else. 4 Juliuses step-by-step walk towards Will, then suddenly explode, causing him to be frozen. Both Professor Wayner and Edward are also very shocked when they recognize that magic as a secret technique created by the genius Elfaria. Elfaria Frost is the name given to honor the 12 secret techniques created by Elfaria, and what Julius just used is one of those 12 magics. The first magic is the magic that creates ice clones identical to the original. Will loudly asks Julius how he can use Elfie's magic. Hearing this, Julius can't help but laugh out loud and arrogantly replies that it's talent. What other reason could there be? Julius has investigated and learned this secret technique on his own. Although only a part, he has truly reached the level of a magic vendor. Julius even claims that Elfaria Ambis Vina is nothing special. One day, he will strip her bare. Hearing this, Will angrily breaks the ice layer and charges to attack. But this is exactly what Julius was waiting for. He controls the clones to use magic attacks, preventing Will from advancing. The two followers also take this opportunity to show off to Will. After cornering Will in the middle, 3 of Julius's clones suddenly stop attacking, and then burst into energy, creating a remote circle barrier, imprisoning him inside. No matter how Will struggles, he cannot escape. Not stopping there, Julius creates a super giant ice block and throws it directly at Will, causing the entire audience to momentarily fall silent in astonishment. Professor Edward praises Julius as indeed very powerful, winning without needing to move a step. For a mage, that is basic and also ideal. Over 10,000 accumulated points are indeed not just for show. Julius arrogantly walks while boasting loudly. What do the recruiters think? He has achieved Elfaria Ambis Vina's secret technique. His ice magic is omnipotent. He will become Elfaria's successor, he shows them, causing the entire audience to suddenly erupt. However, Iris has realized that it's all just a show. Julius has used Will's monstrous speed to showcase himself, but that much isn't enough to defeat him. Immediately after, a series of slashes are launched from inside the ice block, shocking Julius as he doesn't understand how Will could survive that attack. Will then thanks Julius because thanks to his magic, his head has cooled down. This is Will's bad habit that's hard to break. Whenever it comes to Elfie, he tends to get angry easily. Julius angrily attacks Will with his followers using ice magic. Will not only dodges but also circles behind and easily takes down Julius's 2 followers. At the same time, he reminds Julius that his L-wise is not perfect. What Will just did is similar to when he fought Professor Edward. He hid himself within the chaos of the magic attacks and hit Julius from above when they lost sight of him. Julius's clones suddenly shatter, shocking the audience. Will has realized that Julius controls his clones with the help of his teammates. It only allows him to temporarily access Elfie's magic, but cannot compare to even a fraction of hers. These words make Julius completely furious. Rewinding time, Elfaria had said that if what was written in the documents was true, Julius Rainbow was very likely to be her successor. But Sarissa doesn't understand that what she wants by her side is a unique sword. Back to the match, Will says Julius's L-wise is not perfect. Unlike the automatic operation mechanism of the Guardian, clones created by L-wise need the control of the owner. Julius's teammates play a supporting role in helping him operate the clones, meaning he is not proficient with L-wise. Hearing this, Julius grinds his teeth in anger and launches ice flowers that will explode on contact. Then he uses L-wise Fake to create 4 more clones, continuously attacking Will from 4 directions. Despite this, Will can calmly dodge with ease. Although Julius doesn't want to admit it, the truth is that currently, he can only control a maximum of 4 clones. Without the support of his followers, the clones would just be like fixed cannons. But Julius is confident that someone like Will cannot distinguish which one is the real him among the perfectly copied clones. Yet Will does recognize him and charges to attack Julius. Although he quickly erects an ice wall to block, he is still knocked far away by Will. The reason Will recognizes Julius's true form is because the temperature of clones created by L-wise is opposite to the temperature of the original body, around -36 to -37 degrees. Depending on the amount of magic power of the original body, it can be even lower. And when control is not perfect, footsteps will leave ice fragments like Frost Walker. Julius feels very confused about how a useless person who cannot use magic like Will understands this magic better than him. The reason is very simple. It's because Will is Elfaria's childhood friend. They were all abandoned children, growing up in the same orphanage. Therefore, Will understands Elfaria's magic very well and also greatly admires her, but still cannot reach her. All eyes are now on Will. Elfaria at the top of Mercedes Coley's also replies that it's okay. Their memories, his efforts, they definitely aren't in vain. Although Will has explained very clearly, Julius still cannot accept that a useless person like him can resist a magic vendor's secret technique. It's not until Will splits this attack in 2 that Julius finally collapses and kneels on the ground. Will acknowledges that Julius is indeed very talented. Until now, no mage has been able to use Elfie's magic. However, L-wise is a magic that Elfie created when she was just 2 years old. Therefore, it's not perfect and has many flaws. This means Julius's show of power is no different from an emperor wearing no clothes. Hearing this, Julius is extremely shocked. He was proud of learning this magic, only to be at the same level as a 2-year-old girl. The next second, Julius suddenly bursts into laughter, then creates 8 clones, causing the audience to erupt. Now, without needing any control, Julius decides to crush Will with numbers. He is confident that this time, Will must lose. But Julius doesn't know that Will has always been bullied by up to 10 Elfies. Julius bitterly uses Glass Edia to shoot countless ice arrows towards Will. He immediately dodges and then uses his extreme speed to take down one clone, causing Julius to break out in a cold sweat and flee in fear. Seeing this, Will immediately gives chase. He weaves through obstacles and swings his sword repeatedly, just like Kirito in Sword Art Online. The clones are thus successively defeated by Will with ease. After eliminating the last clone, Will rushes to give Julius an extremely powerful punch, sending him flying off the arena unconscious. The entire audience instantly erupts because no one thought that someone originally considered useless could defeat an elite with over 10,000 accumulated points. Collet has also arrived now, thinking that no one could prevent Will from winning. But unexpectedly, when he turns back to take the crown, Wignall's team suddenly appears. It turns out that while the 2 of them were competing, Wignall had already taken the crown. And so, Wignall's Team 12 has won this year's Crow Attack battle. Meanwhile, Elfaria on the tower is now trembling, asking Sarissa if there is any magic that can change the past or erase memories. The answer, of course, is no. And even if there were, Sarissa wouldn't let her use it. Hearing this, Elfaria cries out loudly. Sion never expected that even Julius would be defeated. He is determined that one day, he will definitely defeat Will. On this side, after seeing that Will is still safe and sound, Collet has become happy again. Will then also apologizes to Collet. Although they have lost, Will still kept his promise. After the magic tournament ended, Will and the others went to Jenna's tavern to attend a celebration party. Here, they received a warm welcome. Everyone was friendly, talking and laughing joyfully as if they were family. As the party was winding down, Donald asked Will if he had been recruited by the tower's recruiters. The answer was, of course, no. Having not won the competition and being involved in internal conflicts, who would want to recruit him? Everything this time was thanks to Sion. Will had invited Sion to the party, but he refused, saying who would want to attend a celebration party. Donald said it didn't matter because Will had won the duel, and they had received a proper apology. Moreover, Julius's group had to become serving staff in the tavern to atone for their mistakes. For dwarves, practical actions are much more important than words. It's true that evildoers get their just desserts, so everyone should just live righteously for peace of mind. Seeing Professor Wayner sigh, Collet thought he wasn't happy because they had organized the party on their own. But that wasn't the case. If he wanted to stop them, he would have done so from the beginning. What Professor Wayner was truly concerned about was that Will had just made a big splash in the magic tournament. From tomorrow, no one knows which direction things will take. Collet believes that everyone has witnessed Will's true strength and will certainly reassess him. But if things only stop there, that would be good, because even Wayner couldn't be sure what Will would have to face in the future. With the comprehensive combat test approaching, everyone in the academy is showing concern. They will have to form parties to explore the dungeon for an entire week. Everyone thinks it would be great if they could join the party of the top 3 students. At this moment, 2 people suddenly run over to ask Will if he would like to go to the dungeon with them, leaving him confused, not understanding what's happening. Not stopping there, others also come over one after another. They all have the common goal of inviting Will to join their party. After the magic tournament, everyone has learned about Will's true strength, so now he's being pursued like a young idol. This is what Professor Wayner wanted to talk about yesterday. Seeing everyone surrounding Will like this, Collet immediately runs over to stop them, saying that until now, they have always criticized and mocked Will, and now they're changing sides too quickly. Collet thought Will would be angry, but unexpectedly, he's extremely excited about being invited into parties. Hearing this, a girl criticizes Collet for wanting to monopolize Will for herself, then grabs Will's hand and invites him to go to the dungeon together. Seeing this, Collet immediately becomes jealous, pushing the girl's hand away and loudly stating that Will has plans tomorrow. They've promised to go shopping together. That night, Collet couldn't concentrate on studying because she kept thinking about what happened in the morning. At this moment, her roommate Rose brings her hot tea. Rose has also heard about the 2 of them going shopping together and advises Collet to wear a really cute outfit so Will won't be able to take his eyes off her. On the other side, after learning that tomorrow Will won't be going to the dungeon but will be shopping with Collet, Rosti becomes visibly upset, predicting that there will be a spectacular jealous confrontation with smoke and fire. The next morning, Collet is at Viola Square very early. She had to try on many outfits before choosing this one. Collet is determined to turn the shopping trip into an intimate date between the 2 of them. Not long after, Will arrives. Seeing him looking as handsome as an idol, Collet is a bit stunned. Will had also planned to come early but didn't expect Collet to arrive even earlier than himself. Seeing him staring at her, Collet asks shyly, "What's wrong?" Will smiles and says that today's outfit and hairstyle suit her well, looking very different from the usual Collet, which surprises her. Being so smooth, who could resist? Hearing this, Collet blushes and gestures exaggeratedly. But this joy doesn't last long. The next moment, Rosti suddenly appears, making the atmosphere extremely awkward. It turns out that after learning Will would go shopping with Collet, he had asked to come along. Thinking that more people would make it more fun, Will had agreed. Before Collet could understand what was happening, Rosti had already intimately held Will's hand and pulled him away like a lover. He even turns back to mock Collet, making her extremely bitter. And so, each time Collet tries to get close to Will, Rosti plays the role of a cockblocker, not giving her any opportunity to approach. Although very frustrated, Collet can't do anything, only able to stand from afar and watch them being intimate. Only when the 2 of them are alone does Collet explode in anger, asking Will what that annoying Rosti is to him. Why is he always sticking to you? The closeness between the 2 of them is extremely suspicious. Are you sure you're just roommates? With that beautiful face, he might even be a beautiful girl. Will doesn't understand what Collet is saying, but he's certain Rosti is a boy like himself. He has that thing too, and it's even bigger than mine. It's true that they have many intimate gestures, but Rosti has been like that since they first met. Rosti returns carrying 2 glasses of water for Will and Collet. When asked where his portion is, Rosti says he'll share with Will for the sake of their bond. Hearing this, Collet's face suddenly darkens, and she then gives her glass to Rosti to share. Rosti is silent for a moment, then tells Will to go get his sword maintained. Colette adds that mages appearing at the dwarves' forge wouldn't be welcome, so he should go ahead. With both of them saying this, Will has no choice but to go alone. Now, with just the two of them, Colette directly asks Rosti if he has feelings beyond friendship for Will. Rosti doesn't hide it. He admits he loves Will more than anyone, and that his feelings even surpass Colette's. Colette refuses to back down, saying that until 4 years ago, she and Will still hugged each other all the time. But that can't compare to Rosti bathing with Will every night since they met. The back and forth between them attracts the attention of those around, no different from a fierce battle between a dragon and a tiger. On the other side, while heading to the forge, Will accidentally runs into Liana, the girl who's known as Miss Perfect with comprehensive scores in theory, practice, and combat, a supreme existence, completely opposite to him. It turns out it wasn't a coincidence, but that Liana had actively sought Will to invite him to a tea house to discuss some matters. Upon arrival, Will discovers that Sion, Julius, and Wignall are also present. Without beating around the bush, Liana says that the comprehensive combat program will start from the second semester of the final year. She wants the 5 of them to form a party to conquer the dungeon. But Liana doesn't know that 2 of the 4 people here have very bad relationships with Will. As soon as they hear about forming a team with him, Sion and Julius immediately bristle and ask Liana what this is about. Liana simply replies, "Is there something wrong?" Will is extremely shocked. It turns out she's just a clueless girl. Sion is about to rush up and fight Will when Wignall suddenly uses Loria to transform the entire room into a colorful flower field, leaving everyone there speechless with astonishment. This is illusion magic, a special type of magic that summons imaginary scenery that only elves can use. Wignall, referred to as Wider in this part of the text, tells them to listen to Liana first, then they can do whatever they want. After everyone has calmed down, Liana begins to explain her intentions. As explained from the beginning, the comprehensive combat program is about to start. Liana wants to gather the most outstanding mages in their grade, and Will, who performed very well in the magic tournament, has something they don't. She finds it very useful in the dungeon. Julius believes that someone who can't even use search magic in the dungeon would only be a hindrance. Sion also agrees with Julius, and moreover, he doesn't want to be in the same party with Will ever again. Wignall thinks what the 2 of them are saying now is no different from sore losers whining. How can they look down on someone who has defeated them? Will has the strength of dwarves and the speed of monsters. While it may not be very elegant, the fact is that his sword defeated their scepters. In terms of points, it's true that Wignall also loses to Liana, but because of this, he always gives Liana a certain respect. If she has evaluated it this way, then Wignall also respects the decision to let the useless guy into the group, unlike some who lose and still act arrogant. Liana also adds that she actually just wants to use Wignall and the others to ascend the tower as the leading student. She wants to have value, recognition, and a future better than her current one. Will is certain that Liana has received recruitment offers from recruiters after the magic tournament, which means she already has guarantees after graduation. So why do all this? The answer is because current students at the academy are like unsellable items, inferior components. Liana's Ogino family can be said to be a destined to fail family. She must achieve notable accomplishments to prevent the family's collapse. Just ascending the tower is not enough. If necessary, Liana will have to aim for the position of magic vendor. This answer shocks Will immensely because he has the same ambition. Liana asks the 4 of them to put the coin in their hands into this cup, if they think her decision is beneficial. Wignall thinks no party will achieve higher results than this one, so he agrees. Sion, who initially refused adamantly, has now changed his decision. Julius, wanting to earn more accumulation points, has no other choice but to agree to participate. As for Will's decision, that remains to be seen. A few minutes later, Will has returned to Rosti and Colette. Since they didn't see him at the dwarf forge, the 2 were very worried and searched everywhere for him. Will is silent for a moment, then tells Colette and Rosti that for the upcoming comprehensive combat test, he will be in Liana's team. Of course, there have been cases of people who never returned. Notably, last year, 4 students were eaten by monsters. Although teachers will be stationed in the dungeon, there are still tragic deaths. Therefore, Professor Edward reminds them to absolutely not take risks. What he hopes from his students now is not blindly aiming for magic vendor status, but rather a steel-like resilience, knowing one's own limits. Very quickly, the day of the comprehensive combat test arrives. The students have now gathered at the camp near the entrance to the 7th floor of the dungeon. Although not invited to join the party, Colette still insists on accompanying Will. Rosti cannot go along because magic engineers are instructed to stay at the camp, but in compensation, he has prepared many magical items for Will. Before departing for the comprehensive combat test, also known as in-depth exploration, Professors Weiner and Edward have some words of advice for the students. The duration is 1 week, and unlike regular combat tests, everyone will have to survive in the dungeon. Camps will be set up on each floor. Therefore, remember to check the distributed maps. The teachers will be present immediately to assist students who wish to withdraw. The end of the message also marks the official beginning of the comprehensive combat test. In another development, Deputy Lockwell of the Flame faction is informing Flame Emperor Chariot that the decision to organize this year's comprehensive combat test has already been made. But Chariot tells him that he doesn't need to report everything like this. Although he is the representative of the Scepter Group, it is, after all, only temporary. Lockwell believes that Thunder is too arbitrary, Fairy is too complacent, and Ice is lazy. No one is more suitable for that position than Flame Emperor Scepter Chariot. Chariot asks Lockwell if the king has not yet returned. Currently, he is still on a punitive expedition. Really, this barrier is about to disappear, and yet, back to the dungeon, as soon as the signal to begin is given, Will and the others immediately charge forward. If he achieves good results here, he will be able to go to Elfie. While lost in thought, Wignall suddenly uses Melva magic to blow everyone forward. Everyone lands safely, with only Will landing face first. Before he can understand what's happening, a herd of crimson monsters suddenly appears. Mages are very weak in close combat, so Will plans to go forward to shield them. But Wignall says it's not necessary, because Liana can deal with them easily. Ogenzo is a knight family. Among mages, Liana is an expert in the field of close combat. After eliminating all the crimson monsters, Liana says that competing for points with other teams is very troublesome. They will advance earlier than other teams. Going back to an earlier time, Professor Wainer is tutoring Will after class. He asks Will if he knows what the most important magic in the dungeon is. Attack magic, defensive magic. Both are incorrect. The answer is Search, a basic type of magic that detects monsters and anomalies. For mages who frequently explore dungeons, it is fundamental and also essential. At this moment, a crimson monster suddenly appears, intending to attack Will. Fortunately, Julius freezes it in time, but he doesn't forget to mock him. Will couldn't locate the enemy in time, or more accurately, the search range of Julius's group is wider than the range Will can sense. At this rate, before Will can approach, they will have cleared all the monsters. Later, Will finally defeats one monster. But the next second, Wignall has already used wide area magic to clear all the remaining crimson monsters, much to Will's astonishment. Wignall didn't expect Will to be more useless than he thought, not even able to make a shield. Now he's beginning to question Liana's decision. She defends by saying that Will just hasn't had the opportunity to be a shield yet. Against other enemies, he will demonstrate his strength, so it's okay if he's a bit useless now, probably. Moreover, Julius also says that someone who can't use Search will only be a hindrance. Mages can absorb magical power from defeated monsters into their scepters, turning the scepters into scoring tools. The Academy has a system to confirm whether students have achieved sufficient points or not. Therefore, people like Will who cannot collect magic power, if they don't bring back dropped items, won't be credited with points. It's for this reason that he's often disliked by parties. For instance, Xian just said, "Now that we're in the same team, don't do shameful things anymore, you useless one." Will had anticipated such things before, so it's fine. He will try to help everyone in other ways. Although he says so, Will can't do anything. The others are too good, so he doesn't have the opportunity to show his abilities. At this rate, he will truly become a burden. A day has passed since the comprehensive combat test began, so Liana suggests they rest here. To ensure everyone's safety, Wignall has used Nidoria magic to create a wall of fire surrounding them. Although this is just an illusion, the sudden appearance of fire will make monsters cautious and not dare to approach. Will then distributes the dry rations he brought to everyone. Everyone accepts them by hand. Only Wignall tells Will to place them on the ground and not approach, because the elf race only touches those they acknowledge. Collet angrily speaks up for Will. But Wignall says that they are mages, and he is an elf, so just accept it. In this party, the only person Wignall acknowledges is Liana. Hearing this, Will tells Collet to stop arguing. The culture and customs of elves are different from theirs, and besides, he doesn't mind. Elves, although similar to dwarves as foreign races from other worlds, are a respected race that uses magic. They are proud and have a strong sense of nationalism. However, many of them are talented mages, and one of the magic vendors is none other than the queen of the elf race. After eating, Liana begins to share the next plan. Their highest goal is the Fire Flame Nabaris with a reward of 110 points. Only one appears, and it's the boss of the 10th floor. It can be said that Liana's purpose in forming this party is to defeat Nabaris. She wants to show the tower that they have enough strength to defeat a 110-point monster. Therefore, Liana decides to use the shortest route down to the 10th floor to conserve magic power to deal with Nabaris. The other monsters will be dealt with later. Today, Will has only earned 5 accumulation points. This isn't going well. Going to defeat the boss, it would be a lie to say he's not afraid. But to get to Elfie, Will just has to take risks. Meanwhile, at the 10th floor, a massacre has occurred. A stranger asks the headless man if he has killed all those above. He then uses magic to reply that it was too troublesome, so he sent them to hell. Not long after, Will's group reaches the 10th floor. But strangely, they have been walking for a long time and only encountered monster carcasses. This is clearly not the doing of other parties because they have bypassed all camps and come here by the shortest route. Will also notices that there are no traces of magic. The monsters were just torn apart by pure strength. The group then continues to move to Naboris's room, but when they arrive, they are extremely shocked to discover it has already been killed. Feeling danger, Liana immediately tells everyone to use the search skill, but they don't detect anything. Search is indeed very useful. However, it's not omnipotent. It's very difficult to detect hidden traps or mages using concealment. And among monsters, there are some individuals that cannot be detected by search. Remembering this, Will closes his eyes to focus his spirit and sense the surrounding. Fortunately, in this dangerous moment, he timely discovers a monster hiding above them. Otherwise, they would all be dead. Before Wignall can understand what's happening, he is knocked unconscious by it. Seeing this, the others intend to use magic to attack. But before they can launch their spells, the monster punches the ground hard, causing it to crack and pulling them down. The vibration it causes is felt even up to the 1st floor. Fortunately, when falling, Will catches Wignall in time, or he would surely have died. The place they fall into is the 11th floor, outside the Academy's control area, a dangerous zone where only high-level mages are allowed to enter. The floors extending from the 11th to the 15th are also called the Nightmare Intestine. Both the complexity of the maze and the strength of monsters here are vastly different from the floors they have gone through before. Liana tells Collet that being isolated on this 11th floor is extremely dangerous. If they don't quickly regroup with the others, all of them will be swallowed by the dungeon. At this moment, a horrifying scene suddenly appears. Many elves are criticizing a boy as useless, unable to use any decent illusion magic. That boy is none other than Wignall. Even his close friend Allure says Wignall is a disgrace to the elf race. A useless person doesn't need hands. It turns out that was just Wignall's nightmare. He has now been awakened by the noise of Will killing monsters. Seeing Wignall awake, kind-hearted Will immediately runs over to provide first aid for his wounds. But Wignall not only doesn't show gratitude but pushes Will's hand away. Hearing this, Wignall asks Will to give him the tools so he can perform first aid himself, really preferring to suffer rather than accept comfort. While Wignall is bandaging, Will starts to think about what to do next. Most of the special equipment brought along has been damaged. He only has 3 supporting items left, including Rosty's magic tools. Water and food are still available. Collet's group also brought similar supplies, enough to last 2 days. But considering the harshness of the 11th floor, perhaps they only have 1 day left. Thinking of this, Will tells Wignall that he wants to prioritize regrouping with Collet's team. But Wignall believes that when in trouble in the dungeon, what one should do is wait for rescue. Will seriously replies that if they don't act, they will die. At least for him, the dungeon is such a dangerous place. Moreover, as long as that beast is still on the 10th floor, no rescue will arrive in time. The situation above is not much better than Will's location. Miss Eliza informs Professor Wayner that a riot has broken out. The camp is being destroyed by an army of monsters. Bruno's group has also been killed by something and had their heads taken. All protection equipment other than hers has been destroyed. Although she doesn't know the situation below the 9th floor, it's likely as chaotic as this 8th floor. Wayner is extremely shocked after hearing this. Not only is there a stampede, but teachers have also been killed. This cannot be a coincidence but must be someone's plot. At this moment, Professor Edward calls Wayner to urgently stop the comprehensive combat test. The students are in danger. They should go down to assist. Will's group has also set out to find Collet's team. Seeing Wignall continuously using search, kind-hearted Will advises him not to use it too much. Even basic magic used continuously can lead to exhaustion. Yet Wignall shouts for Will to be quiet. This is the 11th floor. How can one lose vigilance in such an unpredictable, dangerous place? But he doesn't know that the basic principle when using search is not about time but distance. Depending on the search range, it's at least 140 meters. The length of Will's stride is about 70 centimeters. When he has walked 200 steps, Will tell Wignall to use search. Their detection distances are different, so Will wants to assign tasks to maximize benefit. He and Kiki will eliminate enemies that ambush suddenly and aren't detected by search. Wignall should find enemies from afar to avoid confrontation. What they need to do now is not to fear ambushes, but to limit fighting as much as possible. Hearing this, Wignall wonders how Will can remain so calm in this situation. The answer is very simple. To ascend the tower, Will has forced himself to earn combat points. He had to learn everything about the dungeon and try all possible methods. It's nothing to be proud of, but Will has encountered many dangers in the dungeon. That experience has helped Will know more ways to handle situations than them. Just as he finishes speaking, Kiki announces that monsters are coming. Very quickly, they are surrounded by a horde of orcs. Other routes also have different groups lying in ambush. They have no choice but to fight here. Wignall immediately uses Verd's Rana magic to knock down the orc in front of him. But when Wignall turns around, he is extremely shocked. Will is now decimating the monsters just like Kirito. How can he move and fight like that in this situation? Continuously turning the unknown into the known. Is that the reason he becomes powerful? Compared to him, I'm no different from a useless person. Because he's too engrossed in his internal monologue, Wignall doesn't notice that the orc from earlier is still alive. Now it's too late to chant counterspells. Wignall decides to use the illusion magic Midoriya to deceive it, and then chant again. Seeing this, Will loudly warns not to do it. But it's too late. The monster has now charged through the wall of fire towards Wignall. Fortunately, in this life or death moment, Will runs over in time to save him. It turns out orcs don't have eyes, but in compensation, they have very keen senses of smell, so illusion magic has no effect on them. Hearing this, Wignall suddenly bursts into laughter and says, "I am a useless person, not outstanding as everyone thinks," leaving Will extremely astonished. Wignall confides in Will that he alone was left behind at the academy after 6 years. All other elves had ascended the tower with no exceptions. The talentless one, the disgrace of the race, these are the beautiful terms his kin have for Wignall. The evidence is illusion magic, which is a type of magic that materializes imagination, like what Will saw in the magic tournament. However, what Wignall can use are just meaningless illusions, tricks that cannot defeat enemies. And although Wignall has the ability to climb to the top 3, as Liana once said, those remaining in the academy are the inferior ones, the unsellable merchandise, recruited in the magic tournament, or by creating new magic. Talented people don't need to graduate from the academy, but advance directly to the tower. For 6 years, Liana couldn't do anything but admiringly watch those people. Just like Wignall, Liana is praised as Miss Perfect, but that's just the story inside the academy. They are just frogs sitting at the bottom of the well, not knowing the greatness of the sky. More than anyone, Liana has witnessed it. A true genius of the same era, someone who, in their first year, had climbed to the position of magic vendor, Alfaria Ambus. From that moment, deep in Liana's heart, she realized that in front of a true genius, inferior ones like them have nothing to compare. And the first person who made Wignall taste the despair of being inferior was his foster sister who grew up with him in their homeland. The noble queen, the pride of the elf race, magic vendor, Elner Rios. Wignall and Elner grew up together and have a deep relationship. He had sworn to himself that he would support that little girl forever. But that little girl was a talented elf who created the royal forest. And then they were separated by those in the tribe. To be able to go to her side, someone who had become a magic vendor, Wignall had ceaselessly made efforts alone. Yet until now, he is still just a useless person. Wignall's contempt for mages is just an effort to deceive himself. Now everything is clear. It turns out that's the reason why Will always feels Wignall has something very similar to himself. Wignall asks Will what the hell he's saying. No need to pity, I'm just a burden, don't worry and go ahead. But Will not only doesn't do that, but also praises Wignall as excellent. Will promises that he will protect Wignall until he can be steady again. On the other side, Colette says she understands people like Liana have quite a bit of an inferiority complex towards those on the tower. But she knows a boy who has always done his best despite being mocked as useless. Even when hearing about their inferiority, Will would certainly just laugh it off. Speaking of Will, right now he's dealing with Deformed Serpent, Gas, and Naz in 5 over. Their level is entirely different from the floors they've gone through before. Wignall feels very confused about why Will can handle the 5 over in an instant. He has fought continuously in many battles, yet his physical strength shows no signs of decline. Seeing Will so tattered in order to protect him, Wignall asks why he doesn't abandon him like his kin did. The answer is very simple, because Will knows Wignall isn't a malicious elf or anything. At this moment, Kiki suddenly cries out, signaling that something is about to arrive. Wignall immediately uses search but doesn't detect any reactions, because that is the sound the dungeon makes when producing more monsters. Upon arriving, Will discovers something like the dungeon's stomach producing extremely dangerous monsters. He immediately launches Tauros Novato to eliminate it. Will explains that it's a Barco, a special monster species of this floor, worth 11 accumulation points. Their body is fire, so physical attacks have no effect. Moreover, their magic resistance is very high. Barco is a natural enemy, those considered dangerous even to mages from the tower. The only thing effective against them is the illusion magic of the elf race. This is a dead end. They must fight. If it's just Will alone, he can't defeat them, so he needs Wignall's help. Wignall shouts loudly, "No, didn't I already say it? I can't do it. I will definitely fail." Unexpectedly, Will says failing is okay. For those who aren't geniuses like them, if they don't fail, they can't move forward. Moreover, Will won't die because he has the same dream as Wignall. I will go to Elfie, who is waiting for me on the tower. Until then, I will definitely not die. Now Wignall understands. It turns out they have the same dream. Will then charges forward with his sword, but indeed, it has no effect. Seeing this, Wignall immediately uses illusion magic to attack the Barco. Unfortunately, he fails. One would think Wignall's failure would kill Will, but that's not the case. With Kiki's help, Will not only blocks the Barco's attack, but also encourages Wignall to try harder, not to give up. Will believes that his efforts until now are definitely not in vain. Wignall didn't expect Will to believe in someone abandoned by his kin like himself. Thanks to this, his fear of his kin will end here. Will's faith in Wignall is the only thing he cannot betray. Wignall swears that he will never give up on his dream. The next second, Wignall confidently shows off his linger magic. Countless vines suddenly appear, destroying all the Barco in an instant. Wignall then kneels down to apologize to Will for being disrespectful to him before, and also praises him as a warrior worthy of others' admiration. Will didn't intend to say this, but he will. Actually, Will has always admired Wignall too. The two then shake hands in reconciliation, erasing the grudges from before until now. Walking a bit further, Will takes out an item and introduces it as Rosty's magic tool. It creates maps using the user's blood. This means that he hasn't been wandering around, and Kiki has also remembered the scent of Collet and Sion's group. So as long as there are traces, they will find them very quickly. Julius and Sion on this side are like water and fire, arguing incessantly, neither willing to yield to the other. Julius feels that recently Sion has been using magic better, so he often shows off. They already didn't have a good relationship, and both of them were handled beautifully by Will, which is not pleasant at all. Detecting an enemy, Sion immediately pulls Julius to hide inside. It's clear that Julius just used search and didn't see any monsters. Sion reminds him that they just tasted it on the 10th floor, monsters that can avoid search. Just as Sion said, a group of evil sentinel monsters suddenly appears. It's very likely that this is a dungeon outbreak caused by the monster they saw on the 10th floor. Normal people would choose to retreat in this situation, but Sion insists on eliminating these damn evil sentinels, because they are the reason he had to endure the most terrible humiliation in the world, which is being saved by Will. The upper floors are now also being attacked by evil sentinels. Fortunately, in this dangerous moment, Professor Edward appears just in time, using the magic of the Chain of Sin to eliminate them in an instant. Edward instructs the students to quickly take refuge on the 6th floor and listen to the teacher's guidance, then rides a familiar spirit with Professor Wainer to the other floors. Wainer says that most students have already gone to take refuge. Fortunately, they haven't passed the 8th floor yet, except for Liana's party. According to the information reported, they went straight to the boss on the 10th floor with the goal of defeating it. The 10th floor is very wide. Professor Edward worries that with the few remaining locator devices, it would be very difficult to find them. But Professor Wainer already knows their location. Familiar spirit Kiki, he gave Will a special animal. The crystal on Kiki's body will transmit images directly to this orb. The place where Will's group is now is the 11th floor. Meanwhile, on the other side, Collet is walking while leaving precious stones as marks. According to Liana's calculations, it has been 16 hours since the two of them fell to the 11th floor. They have also run out of water and food. Although they have tried to make the most of their rest time, the monsters don't give them a chance. Thanks to Liana, the two have survived many ambushes, but she's also reaching her limit now. At this moment, Liana suddenly apologizes to Collet. It's just because of her ambition that everyone was put in danger. Collet asks what the hell she's talking about. Isn't it all because of the monster they encountered on the 10th floor? Anyone would understand that without thinking. Moreover, if speaking like that, the fault is also hers for following when not invited. Collet believes that if it were Will, he would definitely come to save them. On the other side, Wignall has discovered that there is a mage reaction at the fork ahead. The two quickly run there and are extremely shocked to see the sentinels have been defeated by Sion alone. Julius suddenly appears, shouting loudly that it wasn't just him, it was the two of them. Indeed, his firepower is very strong, but Julius's clones have also been damaged no less. Sion doesn't bother to reply but walks over to Will and says, "So you're still alive, huh?" Useless. Will is also very happy that he and Julius are still safe and sound. But there is one thing that concerns them. Collet and Liana are not here. This means the two of them are still isolated. In another development, Liana feels something very strange and stops Collet from advancing. Just as she said, the next second, a horrifying scene appears. The person in front of them is not their Professor Bruno, but the headless man who caused the chaos as it is now. The masked man is also present. He reproaches the headless one. "You should have dealt with those on the upper floor, right? Why are these kids lost on the 11th floor like this?" The headless one explains that it seems he failed to finish them off, and they fell down here after it broke the floor of the 10th floor. Recognizing that those heads are of the teachers from the academy, Khalid angrily asks who they are. Why are they doing this? The headless one crushes the head he's using, then uses a magic symbol to answer that they are just villains, that's all. They want to break that fake sky. Hearing this, Khalid and Liana are extremely shocked. Fake sky? Do they mean the barrier of the magic vendor? According to legend, when the barrier is broken, disaster will occur. Before they can understand what's happening, the headless one says, "Since you're here, give me your heads." As soon as he finishes speaking, he unleashes magic to attack Khalid and Liana. Fortunately, Will appears just in time to stop it, or the two would have lost their heads. It turns out that thanks to Kiki's nose and the precious stones Khalid left behind, Will's group was able to find them so quickly. Seeing that those two are too dangerous, Will intends to charge forward to hold them back so everyone can escape. But before he can do anything, he is knocked far away by the headless one. He suddenly bursts into laughter and prepares to use his full strength. The masked man suddenly pulls him away, with the reason that time is up. The troublesome ones are about to arrive here, and they must go to retrieve that thing. Although very regrettable, the headless one just has to obey. Before leaving, he says he will kill everyone here. As soon as he finishes speaking, a gigantic magic formation suddenly appears. Its gate, the teleportation secret technique of the Queen of Magic. Seeing this scene, Liana's group can't help but be astonished with their mouths agape. Even more shocked when the enemy, in his words, is the evil grand monster with accumulation points up to 270. The 1/1000 law is the formula that the tower uses to convert accumulation points. A 1-point monster is equivalent to a mage with 1000 points, which means a 270-point monster is equivalent to a mage with 270,000 points. Seeing the evil grand about to attack, Will immediately tells everyone to get out of the way. Its power is too terrifying. Will suggests they should retreat. They still have time before the passage is sealed off. Hearing this, the group immediately leaves. Wignall stays behind, intending to use Linger magic to buy some more time. But the evil grand uses pure strength to shatter his illusion magic. In the split second of life and death, Will turns back in time to save Wignall's life. Both of them manage to escape before the passage is sealed. Khalid wonders what that monster is and why it's so terrifyingly powerful. Will says he has read about it in books at the academy. Evil Grand is a high-level monster of the evil tribe that appears on the 25th floor. Its appearance here is probably due to the mages using gate earlier. According to Will's observation, it seems the Grand has ordered the evil gun and evil sentinel to search for them. That's also the reason why there are so many sentinels on the 11th floor. Hearing this, Julius angrily shouts, "Are we going to die here?" Liana can clearly see physical injuries, mental exhaustion, distorted thoughts, and despair gradually crushing everyone's heart. At this moment, Will says they must defeat the Grand. When a Lord-level monster appears above Baron, the evil tribe will establish a territory spanning several dungeon floors. But when the Lord is defeated, their controllability will disappear. They will be able to open a blood path to escape. Khalid immediately understands Will's intention. When the enemy's leader is summoned down to the 11th floor, it causes the subordinates to be in chaos, creating conditions for the Academy's rescue to arrive. Julius disagrees with this opinion. He believes that with just them, they cannot defeat that monster. Although Will already has a plan, he doesn't force them because he cannot use magic. Just when everyone is expected to object, unexpectedly, Wignall chooses to trust Will. He has been saved many times by Will's wisdom and courage, so this time he also trusts Will. Sion also agrees with this opinion. He knows that even if they run, they will be found and cornered. Khalid, of course, chooses to trust because Will understands the dungeon better than anyone. Wignall also tells Liana that he has agreed to let Will touch him. At the same time, he asks her to trust Will, a person acknowledged as a friend by an elf. It seems Liana has been wrong from the beginning. Will is not simply a shield, but he is their leader. In this situation, Will is the only one not crushed by despair. If Wignall, whom she trusts him, then she is also ready to entrust everything to him. Will is very happy to hear this. Surely they will survive and return. But Julius still decides not to believe how they can win with the plan of a useless person. It's true that with Will's plan, they cannot win. "Julius, you are the key." Will kneels down and wants to borrow Julius's power. In return, Will tell him the secret trick in Elfie's magic. Will then disseminates the plan for everyone to implement. Seeing them appear, the evil Grand immediately attacks. After a series of shots, what it hits are only clones created by Julius, and moreover, the remaining clones are still continuing to chant. This is the secret trick of Elfie. Her Elwise allows users to continue spells. Normally, if the spell is interrupted, the magic will not be activated. However, Elwise allows spells to continue from the point of interruption. Even if one clone is destroyed and the spell is interrupted, another clone can continue chanting. That way, Julius can use advanced magic with a very long chanting time. Although controlling the clones of Elwise is very difficult, Julius still tries to do it because this is the only way they can eliminate the evil Grand. To buy time for Julius, Will tells Wignall, Sion, and Collet to continuously cast magic, even low level, to hold it back. As soon as he finishes speaking, they all simultaneously unleash magic attacks on the evil Grand, but don't cause any damage. Seeing it about to attack, Will immediately charges forward to stop it. If the book isn't wrong, the Grand's wings are made of iron. Whether it's him or Sion's group, they cannot pierce through. They have no choice but to act as bait to distract it until Julius finishes chanting. With Wignall's help, Will escapes from the Grand's attack range. At this time, Julius has also finished chanting and unleashes continuous bombardment, Almenda Oris Gus. Yet the evil Grand can still block it. But this has been anticipated in Will's calculations. The opponent is a 270-point monster, so it won't be easily defeated. Therefore, the one who will deliver the finishing blow will be Liana. Even if it blocks the bombardment, the freezing effect will still slow down its wings. With Liana's speed and agility, she can slip into the gaps and penetrate the enemy's heart. But the result is not as they thought. Liana's attack is blocked by an automatic barrier cast by those mages earlier. Seeing Liana in danger, Will immediately runs to rescue her. Although Kiki has used a barrier to block it, the Grand's attack is too strong, shattering Will's glasses. Seeing this scene, Professor Wainer is extremely shocked, not understanding why the evil Grand appears on the 11th floor. But now is not the time to think about that. Professor Edward tells Wainer to immediately accelerate to rescue them. On the other side, thanks to Wignall's magic, the two of them have landed safely. Liana is still unharmed, but Will now looks like someone who has lost his soul. Seeing the Grand start to break the ice and prepare to attack once more, Liana tells everyone to take Will and leave. She will stay behind to buy time for everyone to escape. Even if she has to lose her life, she will hold it back. Then she asks, "Do you know why members of the Ogenza family have short lives? Because as knights, they become shields for their comrades." Wignall also wants to stay behind because, besides Liana, he has found another person whom he respects. As soon as he finishes speaking, the two charge forward to attack the Grand. The battle is very intense. Although Wignall and Liana have used all the magic they can, they still cannot do anything to it. Seeing this scene, Sion begins to struggle with his thoughts. The only way is to escape. Both Liana and Wignall will die. To make their deaths not meaningless, those remaining must escape. Abandoning the two of them and running away is nothing to be ashamed of. Will suddenly ask Sion to punch him once, because he can't stop trembling. The glasses Elfie gave him are broken. Without those glasses, he can't control his fear. Hearing this, Sion rushes over, grabs Will, and punches him repeatedly. He is the one who gave everyone hope, and Liana and Wignall are about to die. Yet Will is here talking about being afraid. He should take responsibility for leading them all here. Will suddenly raises his hand to block Sion's punch and thanks him for helping him stop trembling. Will then hands Kiki over to Collet to take care of, then charges forward to attack. Sion wonders what's wrong with that guy. He's not afraid at all. But Sion doesn't know that Will, whether before or now, is always afraid. Seeing that he still doesn't believe, Collet asks him if he has ever held a sword. You can cast magic from afar with a scepter, but swords are different. You have to step close to face enemies bigger and stronger than yourself. Can you imagine how scary that is? Will is a timid person, but no matter how afraid he is, how pathetic he is just a timid person who is afraid of running away. That's what people call courage, and Collet also decides to stay and fight. On the other side, Will has realized that the enemy's defense is very strong. Not only that, contrary to its large appearance, its mobility is very high. He cannot hit it at all. It's all due to those iron wings. To defeat the Grand, they must break those wings, bring it to the ground. Currently, Liana's group can no longer fight, so Will and Collet must do this. Although Will feels very afraid without his glasses, losing someone is even scarier. Thinking of this, Will shouts Collet's name and asks her to support him. Without Kiki anymore, if Will takes a direct hit from the Grand, he will die immediately. But he has already seen through that attack. Seeing Will suddenly drop his sword and jump high, Wignall and Liana are extremely surprised. But Collet immediately understands his intention and begins to chant magic to create a solid sword. Helping Will cut off one of the Grand's wings. At this moment, Sion suddenly rides his guardian and flies over. Will thought he would use it to attack, but unexpectedly, he uses it as a shield to approach, then unleashes high-level magic to attack the Grand at close range. Yet it still shows no sign of injury. Both scepter and sword cannot defeat it. Not knowing what to do next, a crystal suddenly falls in front of Will. It was thrown by Rusty, who silently tells Will to remember, this is scepter and sword. At this moment, memories of Elfie suddenly appear, followed by a conversation between two masked people. Is this okay? No more words, it's decided. All to protect this world. One day, hope the scepter and sword can be together. As if understanding something, Will immediately runs to the sword while shouting for Xian to use scepter and sword magic. Hearing this, Xian immediately releases Ignis towards him. Will then uses the sword to absorb Xian's magic, creating a fire magic sword, shocking everyone. With the magic sword in hand, Will once again charges forward to attack. His vision is now all red, strength overflowing as if driven by a flow of power inside his body. When he realizes it, Will has been muttering that name, completing the loading of Ignis. Will can now easily cut the evil Grand in half with just one slash. Seeing the scene just now, everyone is so shocked they cannot close their mouths. Immediately after, Will's power also disappears, and the sword returns to its normal state. The group hasn't yet understood what just happened when a legion of sentinels suddenly appears. Perhaps they came after hearing the final scream of the Grand before it was defeated. Will's group is now exhausted, no longer having the strength to continue fighting. Professors Wayner and Edward will certainly not arrive in time to rescue them. If this continues, the first to sign out from life will be Julius. At that moment, an authoritative voice suddenly rings out. Countless light magic formations appear under the monster's feet, then immediately blow them away, sending them all to the extremely laborious Western realm. The person who unleashed that supreme destruction magic is none other than the king of the magic vendors, Holy Light Scepter Aeon Masterus King. Will wonders why such a character would appear here. The answer turns out to be very simple. They have just returned from a punitive expedition. While everyone is trembling with joy, kneeling to show respect when being praised by the king of magic vendors, Will is attracted by the kid named Phil standing next to the king. Interestingly, Phil is also immediately captivated by Will, someone who uses a sword just like him. In another development, the masked man gleefully says that going to retrieve this thing quickly was indeed the correct decision. Otherwise, they would have encountered those formidable ones, but they have finally successfully completed their mission and can now open the Hell Feast. Not long after, a farewell ceremony is held. The anomaly has caused the comprehensive combat test to end. 11 casualties, all teachers of the academy. Thanks to the efforts of the surviving teachers, no students died. Arrest warrants are issued based on witness information, but no clues are found. Without waiting for the wounds of the heart to heal, time continues to flow for those who are still alive. Even now, Wignall's group still doesn't know who those strangers were, only that they were strange individuals capable of killing academy teachers. If not for the great Holy Light Scepter Aaron, they would have died long ago. But it cannot be denied that they survived that terrible cruelty without anyone having to die. Liana feels she has not fulfilled the knight's mission. It was originally a stage she created to impress the tower. But after this incident, Liana has a different perspective. This is a wonderful party. As a knight, even the lowest, Liana wants to express her gratitude to the others. While being moved, her stomach suddenly growls, making everyone laugh. Seeing that Liana seems hungry, kind-hearted Colette brings fruits to feed her. Unexpectedly, she eats one piece and then asks for another without stopping, causing Colette to exclaim, "How long are you going to eat? You've eaten all of Will's portion too. Are you such a glutton?" Liana immediately defends herself, saying that the close combat magic she uses consumes a lot of physical strength in parallel with magical power, so of course, she loses more energy than normal mages. So it's not that she's a glutton or anything. This is the truth, not a lie. Even though Liana eventually tries to be cute, she still can't convince Colette. Xian didn't expect Miss Perfect to be such a glutton. It's the first time seeing that expression. Wignall is also surprised. Will also admits he eats a lot. But perhaps Liana is even more extreme than him. Back to the unfinished story, Liana says that in the previous battle, if not for Will's judgment ability and courage, they would all have died. Julius disagrees. It's because of this useless guy that they all nearly died. He said he was too scared, couldn't stop trembling. Not only that, he also came up with a plan that put so much burden on him. Before he could finish his sentence, Julius has already had an apple stuffed into his mouth by Colette, almost suffocating. But to be fair, Xian wonders what Will's power that can eat magic actually is. It's indeed wonderful, vivid, and so powerful it makes people breathless. It looks like it absorbs magic, but it's not eating. In reality, Liana doesn't think it can be called magic. The foul-mouthed Julius continues to blame Will. Scene 1 of Act 2 happens again. This time, Kiki has shown him what the Emperor's claw hand is like. Will himself doesn't understand what that thing is. At that time, his mind was empty, and then it just happened. Colette and Liana think that Professor Wayner's group probably knows something about it. Perhaps they should go ask what that special phenomenon actually is. Hearing this, Will curiously asks if anyone knows anything about the boy in the Holy Light Scepter Aaron's punitive expedition team, and receives the answer that he is a Phil tribe supporter. Liana has read about them in a book from the Owenzo family. Although they are a race that cannot use magic, they are a small race that has accumulated knowledge about the dungeon through many generations. Since the time of the Magic Queen, they have established a covenant with the tower to become guides helping to explore the maze. Without their help, progress would be impossible. Similar to the power that defeated the Grand, Phil gives Will that kind of feeling, but he doesn't know what it actually is. Speaking of Phil, he is at Headmistress Karen's place. It's been a long time since they met. This time, he has gone with Aaron all the way to the 49th floor, and the trophy brought back is a broken sword called the Mage Slayer, which had been reported before. It turns out Phil's group encountered some suspicious individuals on the 40th floor and fought with them. About 20 high-level mages in the expedition team were killed. They were not opponents to be merciful with, so they had to eliminate them all. But fortunately, this Mage Slayer did not naturally appear in the dungeon. Perhaps they were experimenting there. Holy Light Scepter Aaron has requested Phil to investigate in the dungeon one more time, so the analysis of the Mage Slayer can only be entrusted to Headmistress Karen. Phil also reminds her to be careful. It seems some shadowy figures are lurking in the darkness. Talking like this is enough. Now Phil wants to know why Headmistress Karen didn't inform him about Will. The scepter is managed by them, and the sword is managed by him. The answer is very simple. Because Will is a student at Lee Garden Magic Academy. More importantly, Will's heart is always directed towards the scepter, and he wants to ascend the tower to become a magic vendor. Saying it like that, Phil gives in. He has never heard of a sword wanting to become a scepter. Indeed, there has never been such a precedent. But Headmistress Karen feels this is a good thing. It's very likely that an unprecedented big explosion will occur. Although Phil doesn't like her, he doesn't dislike this kind of game either. He will leave Will for them to take care of a little longer. But from now on, he will intervene. Alright, all to overcome the sky. While everyone is injured here and there, Will can still train as if nothing happened, which surprises Collet. It's just that Will can't stand sitting still. There are still many things he doesn't know, but he can only move forward. Because there is a place he really wants to go to. Julius cannot understand what kind of body Will has anymore. It's very likely that inside him, he's not a mage but a dwarf. Wignall does not allow Julius to talk about an elf's friend like that. Will is a warrior worthy of respect. Liana feels that perhaps simplicity and focus are what make up his strength. At this moment, Sion suddenly walks over and shouts loudly, "Let's compete, useless one." Collet asks him what the hell he's talking about. With such a tattered body, how can he fight? But Sion is still very stubborn, demanding Will to fight no matter what. At the magic tournament, he told Will that next time, they would fight properly. Keep your promise. Someone who cannot defeat him shouldn't dream of ascending the tower. Since Sion has said it like that, how can Will refuse? Collet beside him is at a loss for words with the two of them. The duel between the two young men takes place right after that. Everyone thinks this will be a dramatic and lengthy battle. Unexpectedly, Professor Wayner happens to pass by, sees this scene, and scolds them. So the duel was cancelled, to the joy of Will and the others. Although many sad things have happened, in the end, everything has been resolved. In the blink of an eye, it has been 2 months since the incident during the comprehensive combat test. Professor Wayner knows there will be many students who still haven't stabilized their mental state, but that's not a reason for them to stagnate. This year is also about to end. For 6th-year students like Will's group, this is the final exam. The next second, Professor Wayner announces that the first day of the graduation exam officially begins.